There is little doubt that genetic engineering is providing the medical field with the most powerful tools ever to research diseases and their causes, and to develop treatments and cures.
And I think that genetic technology really has the potential to impact the entire lifespan. It has the potential to impact babies and their genetic makeup. It has the impact to alter the course of diseases like diabetes. And it has the potential to alter things like Alzheimer's that might mean people are more productive in their later years. So genetic technologies really have the potential to impact our entire lifespan and change the entire lifespan.
With this power comes an awesome responsibility. These technologies can and will affect the future of the human race because of the potential applications of genetic engineering in human reproduction. The technology already exists to overcome infertility through techniques like in vitro fertilization. Scientists essentially create an embryo by joining the egg and sperm together outside the mother's body. That embryo can then be implanted in the mother's uterus. Genetic engineering could take that power one step further by altering the embryo that's created. An unborn child with a genetic defect, like the one that causes the fatal disease cystic fibrosis, could theoretically have that gene repaired. The child would then be free from a deadly disease. From fixing defects, it isn't a very big leap to choosing traits, creating a designer baby.
If you have the technology to eliminate cystic fibrosis, then you will also have technology to alter genes and give someone a baby with brown eyes or with particular sports ability or with particular intellect. You know, do you want to get a whole group of people like Albert Einstein or a whole group of Michael Jordans? And you could potentially do that. And would that be equally as good an idea as using the technology to have a baby not have cystic fibrosis?
Beyond the fixes, after the alterations, comes the most controversial of all the applications of genetic engineering: human cloning.
Cloning and genetic therapies will raise for us issues that are huge in terms of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, because we're now talking about messing with genetic makeup of people. You know, we can sort of talk about the tomato plants, you know, or the hybrid seed corn or whatever, because if some of those get thrown out in the process, it's no big deal, I mean, relatively speaking. But if we start creating embryos that aren't potential people, then what does that mean? And what does that say to us about the value of human life?
The US, Europe, and Japan all agreed not to pursue human cloning until early in 2001, when England passed a law allowing limited research into human cloning. As the technology races forward, our society struggles to keep up with the tough ethical questions that are raised. What would being a clone mean?
What does it mean to be a human being, and what is that made up of? And I think most people would suggest that individuals are their genetic makeup, whatever the influences of their environment have how they have impacted them, and then how they see themselves. How do they self-identify as who they are? So you could clone a Michael Jordan, and 20 years from now, when he's a grown person, he would have the genetic makeup of the Michael Jordan that we know. But because he was raised by a different family, the impact of his environment may mean that he hasn't even seen a basketball.
So, what do you think of cloning? If you could, would you clone yourself? Would you clone a parent, or a brother, or a sister, or your best friend?
Okay, I'm really against human cloning because I think, if you think of all the problems that there could be, things that could go wrong.
And we're having problems with animals being cloned. If we're having problems with that and we can't get that, good, then I don't think it'd work very well with humans.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to consider our population again.
And think of how boring it would be if we were, if we were all the same people, and we all thought the same, we all looked the same.
There'd be no arguments, there'd be no agreements.
You couldn't be yourself.
I think people would get tired of it, How would you like to walk out your door and see you all over the place? Some people think that's really cool, but...
Hi, me.
Where would we have those debates? And when would we have all those people protesting what they thought was wrong?
Yeah.
It's just kind of playing like the role of a higher being, and it feels kind of wrong to do that because ethically, I don't know, it's just this feeling you get, and the feeling tells you that it's just wrong.
There's certainly some things that if it worked, it'd be neat. I mean, you wouldn't have to go to school every day. You'd send your clone to school.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to
There's
clean your
pros and
room,
cons
have
of it.
your, yeah.
Clone clean your room.
But, you know, if you got a messed up clone, then that's not going to work very well.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can just throw them out the door and say, okay, I don't want you anymore.
There's people out there just discriminating by race, and I think that if they found out that you're a clone, that they would just, make fun of you.
You'll be like, oh, well, that girl over there, she's a clone. I don't want to hang out with her. That guy over there, he's not a clone. He's cool. I like him.